Hi, welcome back to another video on the Vouch liquid staking derivative platform, which is currently active on Pulse Chain testnet and will be moving to Pulse Chain mainnet as soon as possible. Let's have a quick look at the two components of the system. So we'll look at it from a user's perspective, and then we'll look at it from the other participant's perspective, which is a validator operator, so you understand how it all ties together. So the screen you're looking at here is the user front end. It's very, very simple. If you hold Pulse in your wallet, you can stake it. So let's say you put in 1,000 Pulse, and we hit the stake button. We will get given in return, so once we stake it, so this is the liquid staking component. As you stake that, you get given another token in return, which is vPulse. And at the moment, the ratio of vPulse is not quite 1-to-1. When the system first started, it was 1-to-1, but over time, that ratio is always going to change, and that's a good thing. And I'll explain how that works in a moment. But essentially, you stake your Pulse, get given your liquid staking derivative token, which is vPulse, and that arrives in your wallet. As you can see here, we've got vPulse, so it is as liquid as your Pulse is. You can go and use that in the ecosystem for depositing into other yield farms or doing whatever that you see you want to do with that. But just understand it is a liquid component. You've got access to it. When you stake it, it's your liquidity is not locked away without access to it. If you wish to unstake, pretty simple. You can come and, so let's say you were given, in this instance, we put in 1,000 Pulse, we were given 980 vPulse. If we wanted to unstake that, 980. Obviously a little bit of a rounding error here because I didn't put all the decimals, but you'll get back your Pulse. And over time, you would get back more Pulse because this ratio is going to change. So think of it this way. Over here, you've put 1,000 Pulse into a pot, and so have numerous other people on this platform. That Pulse is then put to work by validating node operators, and the yield that Pulse is earning from the natural yield in the Pulse chain network, so the validating rewards, is then given back to this whole pool of Pulse. So you might have started with 1,000 Pulse, but the next day you've got 1,001, 1,002, 1,003. But there's no more vPulse getting issued, so the ratio changes such that when you come back to unstake your vPulse, you should always end up with more Pulse than what you originally put in. Okay, that's just the nature of the system. The moment you put it in, now obviously the longer you leave it in, the more you'll get back. So if you put it in and quickly take it out, it hasn't actually had time to earn in the yield. So the longer you leave it over time, the more Pulse you will get back out of the system, simply because that ratio's changed. So how does that ratio change? Well, let's have a look what's going on the other side of the ecosystem, where we've got, so someone here has deposited some funds to set up two validators. So we've got two active validators here. So this particular person, as an operator, they've come and deposited 12 million Pulse per validator, and the remaining Pulse required to get the 32 million Pulse stake per validator has come from the pool of funds that people have deposited here as users. So basically we're teaming up this group of users with a group of node operators who bring some Pulse plus the technical skill to run a validator, and then everyone shares in the rewards. Obviously it's done fairly based on how much each party has put into the ecosystem, and the node operators get a 5% commission as well for actually doing the hard work of running the validators, and they've got hardware costs, electricity costs, things like that. So there's a time and there's a resource component that they need to deal with. So they get compensated accordingly for that, but everyone else gets to share in the natural yield that is generated on the Pulse chain network. So as you can see over time, this particular validator has earned some Pulse rewards, and all the other rewards that have come back from the staking from the users' funds is going into a big pool such that this ratio is changing because more pulse is getting put into that pool literally every 5 minutes. So every epoch on the chain, more rewards go into that pool. As I said, over time, you can continue to hold your V pulse, and when you choose to unstake it, you will get given more pulse back than what you initially put in. That's the nature of the system. So over here, you can see this is the overall what's happening in the ecosystem. We've got 3.2 million worth of pulse that hasn't actually been staked, so it's sitting there waiting for someone to come and use that, a validator to come and use that. Obviously, there's not enough to fire up another validator there. We need at least 20 million sitting there. You can see we've currently got 5 validators operating on the system, so we've got a certain amount of pulse that is staked to do that. And that's the total pooled pulse of the system. Now, let's talk about unstaking. So if you want to unstake, and if you had 1 million V pulse, you could come and hit the unstake button, and because there is 3.2 million unstaked pulse sitting in the pool, you would be able to withdraw your pulse straight away. So there's nothing stopping you getting your pulse straight out because there's enough in the pool to pay you out. However, if you came and you wanted 10 million out, but there's only 3.2 million in the pool, well, we need to do something about that because you can't actually extract all of your 10 million. So the way that would look is if you requested to unstake 10 million, you can see here there's an unstaking period, and that's basically because Pulse Chain, in the same way as the Ethereum does, there's an exit time. So from the point in time when someone chooses to exit a validator, it needs to go into a queue, and then the network eventually exits that validator in an orderly fashion. So if you come here and request 10 million and there's not 10 million in the pool, what's going to happen is one of these 5 validators will get sent a request from the protocol that it needs to eject one of their validators from the staking pool, from the validating pool. So they'll essentially issue the exit or withdraw command on Pulse Chain. That's all done in an automated fashion, and the validator will then free up the staked pulse that was sitting on that validator's address, and then that would empty into this pool here, and that would mean that whoever was requesting their funds could get their funds out, and any surplus funds would just sit in the pool ready for the next validator to come along and get matched and fire up a new validator. So it all happens seamlessly in the background. Validators will enter and exit as the system requires. As enough pulse gets pulled into here, a validator can come and set up a new deposit their 12 million. So deposit their 12 million pulse and get matched with the pulse from that's sitting in the pool and fire up a new validator. Like I said, all this is working in concert, so you've got the various participants, so node operators and users who are staking Pulse, all working together to all share in the natural yield of the Pulse Chain network, which gets reflected in this ratio over here of how much Pulse to VPulse you get as a user. Okay, I won't spend too much more time on this. I wanted to keep it a nice, short, quick video, under 10 minutes, but I hope that gives you a good idea of how all this works from a user perspective and how you're actually getting the yield generated and why you're able to have a liquid staking derivative that earns you yield while still having access to all the liquidity of that particular token. Hope that makes sense. Speak to you all very soon in the next video.